Have you ever felt that the silence inside your home is louder than any noise outside? There is a kind of loneliness that words can't explain. It settles in slowly, like a fog covering your days, especially when children go their own way, friends drift apart, and once frequent gatherings become rare. For many people over 60, this feeling isn't temporary. It's a constant presence, a heavy absence. And yet, there is an unexpected path to ease that emptiness: adopting a dog. It might sound too simple to be real, but what happens in that gesture goes much deeper than you might think. Opening your door to a dog is not just about offering shelter. It's about reopening your heart. The bond between a senior and a pet transforms daily life with quiet miracles. A gentle nudge from a wet nose in the morning, walking side by side, those eyes that wait for you like you're the center of the universe. This isn't romanticizing. It's science. It's affection. It's neurochemistry in motion. Studies from institutions like the Mayo Clinic and the American Heart Association show that contact with animals stimulates the release of oxytocin, the so-called love hormone, which lowers cortisol, the stress hormone, and strengthens emotional connections. And there's more. The presence of a dog reduces symptoms of mild depression and anxiety, according to research from the University of Michigan, which studied adults over 60. Those who lived with dogs reported greater motivation to leave the house, more conversations with neighbors during walks, and a renewed sense of purpose in caring for another being. A dog doesn't just soothe loneliness, it brings meaning back to the mornings. Picture this: a man or woman who had grown used to silence wakes up to the sound of eager paws on the floor, to loving eyes and a wagging tail saying, "I'm here with you." That morning cup of coffee now has company. The walk outside now has a reason. A heart that had resigned itself to beat without much excitement begins to warm again with every small gesture of canine affection. This isn't just about owning a dog. It's about being seen, being waited for, being loved. The connection is so deep that in many cases, dogs seem to sense their owner's emotions before a word is spoken. A study from the University of Lincoln in the UK showed that dogs can recognize human facial expressions and respond emotionally. They move closer when they sense sadness. They offer a paw. They rest their head. They understand what silence means. Adopting a dog after 60 isn't just a kind gesture. It's a reunion with life. And that reunion might be the beginning of something extraordinary. Do you remember the last time someone looked at you as if you were truly needed? Most people over 60 have experienced the feeling of becoming invisible. It's a quiet process. Eyes glance past you without stopping. Conversations grow fewer. Invitations fade. Little by little, life seems to revolve around others, and the thought, "I'm no longer needed," begins to settle in. But something extraordinary happens when an older person meets the eyes of a dog for the first time, especially a dog that has also been left behind, rejected, or abandoned. In that gaze, two kinds of loneliness recognize each other, and in that moment, a new kind of hope is born. Adopting a dog isn't about filling empty space with noise. It's about building a bridge between two hearts that have been drifting. The emotional impact of that meeting is real and profound. Scientists at the Tokyo Institute of Neuroscience have proven that when a dog and its owner share eye contact for more than 30 seconds, both release oxytocin, the same hormone that strengthens the bond between mother and child. This isn't fantasy. It's the body recognizing that from that moment on, a safe connection exists, and that connection changes everything. Suddenly, the senior who once felt forgotten begins to feel seen again. Their name is spoken again, but this time by neighbors who notice them walking with their dog. Their hands, once idle, now care for fur, pour fresh water, and hold a leash with purpose. Their routine, once silent and slow, now moves to the rhythm of paws and joyful tail wags. More than companionship, a dog offers continuity. There is a being waiting for you each morning, following you from room to room, resting beside you in the quiet of the afternoon. This steady presence has therapeutic power. According to the National Institute on Aging, pet ownership among older adults leads to decreased feelings of isolation, lower blood pressure, and improved cognitive function. It's not just about being less alone, it's about being emotionally nourished every single day. For the dog, it's equally transformative. Many senior dogs in shelters are overlooked because of their age. Yet when adopted by older adults, something magical happens. They match each other's pace, needs, and quiet wisdom. The bond formed between an older dog and an older human is built on gentleness, on a shared rhythm of life that doesn't rush or demand, but understands. And so, with that very first look, a new chapter begins. Not just for the dog, not just for the person, but for both, as a pair, two hearts slowly learning that it's never too late to be needed, to be loved, and to start over. Have you ever noticed how taking care of something outside of yourself can awaken parts of you that you thought had gone quiet? After a certain age, many people begin to feel that they're no longer essential. Retirement changes the rhythm of life. Children become independent. The roles that once gave shape to daily routines fade. And in that silence, a deep question begins to echo. Who still needs me? The answer often comes softly, unexpectedly, through a heartbeat wrapped in fur, through a tail that wags just for you. Taking care of a dog after 60 doesn't just give you something to do, it reminds you that you matter. The act of caregiving is powerful. Preparing food, ensuring fresh water, watching over someone's safety. It reawakens the instinct to protect and nurture. According to the American Psychological Association, caring for a pet increases a person's sense of purpose and responsibility, both of which are vital for emotional resilience in older adults. The more engaged you are in meaningful routines, the more protected you become against the slow erosion of self-worth that often accompanies aging. But it's not only emotional. There are physical benefits too. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, have consistently reported that seniors who own dogs are more active than those who do not. Even short daily walks lead to improved cardiovascular health, joint flexibility, and even better sleep. The simple act of getting up each day to meet your dog's needs becomes a form of gentle therapy, slowly reconditioning both body and mind. More than that, there is healing in being needed. Many older adults who struggle with chronic sadness or feelings of uselessness find themselves reconnected to life when they adopt a dog. The dog doesn't care about age, appearance, or past mistakes. It cares that you're there. It waits for you to come home, notices when you're upset, leans into you when you need support. This bond is unconditional, and in that kind of love, something profound awakens. Dignity, value, the quiet joy of still being someone's everything. In some cases, even health outcomes change. Research from the University of Missouri showed that seniors who adopted dogs experienced reduced levels of inflammation, a key factor in many chronic illnesses, and even improved immune responses. This suggests that the emotional warmth of pet ownership can influence the body's healing systems, proving that love and connection are not just comforting, they're biologically restorative. Caring for a dog after 60 is not a burden, it's a lifeline. It transforms the caregiver just as much as the one being cared for. And as your hands move to pour food, as your voice calls a name that's always answered with joy, you begin to rediscover your own strength. You begin to feel not just alive, but vital. Have you ever walked into your own home and felt like something was missing, even if everything was in its place? There comes a time in life when a house becomes too quiet. The furniture remains untouched. The pictures on the wall start to blur into the background, and the ticking of the clock feels louder than it should. For many older adults, this silence becomes a daily presence, one that grows heavier with each passing day. But when a dog enters that space, the atmosphere shifts. It's not just that there's movement or sound, it's that the house begins to breathe again. The presence of a dog introduces a rhythm that slowly reawakens the home. Morning stretches become shared moments. Footsteps are now followed. There's a bowl that needs refilling, a leash to be found, a pair of eyes watching you with quiet devotion. These small details transform the emotional landscape of the house. The stillness becomes softness. The emptiness becomes companionship. The same walls that once echoed loneliness now hold new stories, stories made of small rituals, shared silences, and unspoken trust. Researchers at the Human-Animal Bond Research Institute, HABRI, have found that pets play a significant role in reducing feelings of loneliness and increasing social engagement, especially among older adults. One key finding showed that simply having a dog in the home reduces perceived isolation, even when human contact is limited. This isn't just about noise or distraction. It's about presence, constant, dependable, loving presence. The dog doesn't ask questions. It doesn't judge your pace or your silence. It simply stays. And in that quiet loyalty, something in the heart begins to heal. There's a particular kind of comfort in knowing that you are not alone in your space, that someone waits for you when you step out, follows you from room to room, and curls up near your feet just to be close. This invisible thread of companionship stitches the day together, moment by moment. Even the act of speaking changes. Many older adults rediscover their voice by talking to their dogs, narrating their day, asking questions, expressing feelings they might not share with anyone else. According to a study from the University of California, this type of daily verbal interaction, even when one-sided, helps maintain cognitive function and emotional balance in seniors. It's not foolish. It's healing. It's practice for the heart and mind. As the dog finds its favorite spot in the sun, as it learns your schedule and waits by the door, you begin to feel less like someone passing time and more like someone living again. The house no longer feels like a shell. It becomes a home, warm, alive, and shared. When was the last time you stepped outside, not because you had to, but because something joyful was waiting for you? For many people over 60, going outside becomes less frequent over time. The errands slow down, the gatherings become rare. The world begins to feel faster, louder, and less welcoming. Streets that were once familiar start to seem distant. But everything changes the day a dog enters your life, because suddenly there is a reason to go out, and it's wrapped in fur and looking up at you with eager eyes. A dog needs the world outside. It craves the smells, the wind, the rustling leaves, the patch of grass by the sidewalk. And in needing those things, it gently invites you back into life. Not all at once, and not with pressure. Just one walk, then another. And soon, the rhythm of your day begins to include the sky, the changing seasons, the faces of neighbors you hadn't seen in months. These walks are more than exercise. They are acts of reconnection. A study published by Harvard Health showed that dog owners over the age of 60 walk an average of 22 more minutes per day than non-dog owners. But beyond the physical movement, the study found a deeper shift, a rise in positive mood, increased social encounters, and a stronger sense of belonging. You don't just walk the dog, you walk yourself back into the world. There's something profoundly healing about being greeted by nature each day, the morning dew, the sound of birds, the soft tug of the leash. Your body responds, yes, but so does your spirit. According to the Journal of Aging and Health, older adults who walk dogs report lower levels of depression and a greater sense of emotional regulation. The routine helps, the movement helps, but most of all, the companionship helps. Neighbors begin to wave again. Some stop to ask the dog's name. Small conversations bloom. There are smiles exchanged. These are not grand social events, but they are enough. Enough to remind you that you're seen, that you're part of something, that your presence still matters. For many, these walks become sacred, not just a duty, but a joy. A moment where the pace of life slows to match your own, where you and your dog discover little miracles, a squirrel darting across a fence, a flower blooming in a crack in the sidewalk, the quiet bond that needs no words. And as you return home, leash in hand, heart steadier, body warmed by movement, a thought begins to form. You didn't just take your dog for a walk. You walked back into yourself, back into feeling, back into life. Have you ever felt a sadness so still that it didn't show, but lived inside every part of your day? There's a kind of emotional pain that doesn't cry out. It doesn't shout or ask for help. It simply stays, settling into daily life, making the air heavier, the mornings slower, the nights longer. For many older adults, this is what chronic loneliness feels like. It isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's just the quiet belief that nothing new is coming. But when a dog enters that silence, something starts to change, even before you realize it. Unlike people, dogs don't ask you to explain your sadness. They don't need words to understand that you're feeling low. They sense it in the way you move, in the tone of your voice, in the time you take to get up. And in response, they stay close. They rest their head on your lap. They follow you from room to room. They remind you, without saying a word, that your presence matters deeply. Psychological research from the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, shows that pet companionship significantly reduces feelings of persistent sadness in older adults. It provides what psychologists call emotional grounding, a sense of security and stability that helps the mind resist spirals of negativity. Just by being there, dogs serve as anchors in the emotional storm, and this grounding has measurable effects. A study from the University of British Columbia found that seniors who interacted with dogs for just 20 minutes a day experienced lower blood pressure, steadier heart rates, and decreased symptoms of anxiety. It's not just comfort, it's physical healing, tied directly to emotional well-being. What makes the presence of a dog so uniquely powerful is its constancy. People come and go. Friends and family, though loving, often have their own lives to lead. But a dog doesn't leave your side. In every moment of stillness, it is there. It doesn't mind if you repeat yourself, if you stay quiet, if you move slowly. It loves you precisely as you are, in your today, not your past accomplishments or who you once were, but the person you are right now. This unconditional acceptance has a profound psychological effect. It begins to repair something inside. You start to speak again, not just to the dog, but to yourself. You begin to remember that you are lovable, even in your quietest, most vulnerable state. Over time, the sadness doesn't disappear completely, but it softens. It no longer wraps itself around every moment. In its place, warmth takes root, a quiet resilience, a new tenderness toward life, all because one small creature stayed by your side and loved you without condition. Have you ever forgotten parts of yourself, only to see them reflected back in someone else's eyes? As the years pass, it's not uncommon to feel like pieces of who you once were begin to fade. The roles that once defined you, mother, father, worker, partner, start to shift or vanish. Your name is still the same, but the way the world sees you changes, and sometimes, slowly and quietly, you begin to forget how to see yourself. But a dog doesn't forget. From the very first day, it sees only you, fully, completely, and with unwavering loyalty. There's something extraordinary about being looked at every day with devotion. A dog watches you not for what you used to be, but for what you are now, the one who brings comfort, warmth, safety, and love. That gaze becomes a mirror, and through it, many older adults begin to remember their strength, their kindness, their humor, their worth. Studies from the American Pet Products Association highlight that seniors who live with dogs report higher levels of self-esteem and life satisfaction. Not because the dog tells them so, but because it shows them every day. When you become the center of another being's world, something inside you reawakens. You're not invisible. You're not forgotten. You're needed and deeply loved. This feeling is particularly powerful for those who've experienced significant losses: the death of a spouse, the distance of grown children, the end of long-held careers. Each of these moments can take a part of you with them. But dogs, with their playful nudges and patient presence, help restore a sense of identity, not by asking you to return to the past, but by rooting you in the beauty of now. Even routine actions take on meaning. Preparing meals isn't just for you anymore. Sitting outside becomes a shared experience. You find yourself talking more, laughing softly at silly behaviors, remembering the patience and joy that once filled your days. It's as if the dog brings out layers of your personality that had been quietly waiting to return. There is no judgment, no pressure to get better, only gentle, daily reminders that your presence is enough. A paw on your knee, a tail that thumps when you enter the room, a quiet sigh as it curls up near you at night. These are affirmations not from the world, but from the heart of a creature who sees you, really sees you, and loves what it sees. And so, you begin to love yourself again too. Little by little, in moments of calm and connection, the fragmented pieces of your identity come back together. Not as they were, but as they are now, softened by time, strengthened by resilience, and reflected in eyes that never look away. Have you ever wished for a sense of peace that stays with you, even when the world feels uncertain? Aging brings wisdom, yes, but it also brings unpredictability. There are medical appointments, new medications, changes in mobility, and sometimes the unsettling feeling that your body and mind no longer move in harmony. Even the most independent people can feel vulnerable when routines are disrupted. But for many older adults, The steady presence of a dog provides a unique kind of balance, a gentle, grounding force that brings calm to the chaos of the everyday. Dogs live by routine. They wake up at the same time, eat at the same time, wait patiently for walks, and find comfort in repetition. This rhythm, when shared, begins to regulate the life of the person caring for them. What may have felt like scattered or slow days become shaped by purpose. There is a reason to get out of bed, a reason to open the blinds, a reason to breathe deeply and move forward. This structure isn't rigid, it's soothing. According to the Journal of Gerontological Nursing, seniors who care for pets show greater emotional stability and lower stress levels compared to those who live alone without animal companionship. The predictability of pet care becomes a stabilizing element in lives that may otherwise feel unstructured or fragile. And during moments of frustration, when pain flares up, when energy runs low, or when emotions overwhelm, the dog doesn't retreat. It remains. Its presence, free of expectation or judgment, invites a slower breath, a pause, a soft touch. These moments, repeated day after day, act as emotional therapy. Without speaking, the dog teaches resilience. It shows you that even difficult days can hold connection and calm. There's healing in the simplicity of shared presence. Sitting quietly on the couch, your hand resting on soft fur, listening to the rhythmic breathing of your companion asleep at your side. Even the smallest rituals, like brushing its coat or watching it watch the world, become meditative acts, offering peace that no pill or television show could replicate. And when worries come, about health, about finances, about what lies ahead, the dog is there, grounding you in the present. Not tomorrow, not what-ifs, just now. This moment, and this moment, with its small warmths and steady companionship, is often enough to bring stillness to an anxious mind. What once felt like empty time becomes meaningful. What once felt chaotic becomes clear. And through it all, you remain tethered to something alive, something joyful, something that reminds you, even amid uncertainty, you are not alone. There is still comfort to be found. There is still peace to be lived. Have you ever caught yourself imagining the future again, after believing that part of life was behind you? There's a quiet shift that happens when living with a dog. At first, it's about filling silence, adding movement, soothing the loneliness. But then, slowly, something deeper begins to grow. Hope, not the loud, youthful kind, but the gentle, mature kind that comes from being reminded that life can still surprise you, that there are still first times, still smiles ahead, still stories unfolding. Many older adults find themselves doing something they hadn't done in years, planning, looking forward, dreaming. The reason is simple, yet profound. When you care for a dog, you begin to think beyond the present moment. You start wondering about the next walk, the next vet appointment, the next treat they'll discover. And those small thoughts plant seeds. Maybe we'll explore a new park. Maybe I'll teach him a new trick. Maybe we'll visit someone I haven't seen in a while. Each of these thoughts carries motion, direction, purpose, and from them, something beautiful begins to bloom. Psychologists at the Stanford Center on Longevity have noted that older adults who have responsibilities tied to the future, like caring for a pet, demonstrate higher life expectancy, better emotional resilience, and a more optimistic view of aging. It's not about denying reality. It's about choosing to see what is still possible. Dogs live in the now, but they inspire movement forward. Their curiosity, their excitement over routine, their instinct to explore, all of it invites their human to rediscover that same spirit. And with time, what begins as routine turns into ritual. What begins as caretaking turns into companionship. And what begins as surviving turns into living again. For some, that means opening the door to new friendships. A neighbor who also walks a dog. A stranger who stops to pet yours and ends up staying for conversation. For others, it means writing again, painting again, planting something in the garden. These may seem like small things, but for someone who thought their best days were behind them, they are acts of renewal. Even difficult memories take on a different shape when a dog is near. Loss is still there, but now it's shared. The dog listens, in its way. It doesn't turn away. And in that acceptance, there is freedom to speak, to grieve, to feel, and eventually, to hope again. You begin to realize that you are not at the end of your story, but in a new chapter. one that doesn't erase the past, but honors it by continuing forward. And as your dog lies at your feet, dreaming its own quiet dreams, you let yourself wonder, maybe, just maybe, the future still holds joy, that it became part of who you are. As the seasons pass, the bond between a senior and their dog deepens into something beyond words. What began as a chance to ease loneliness becomes a profound partnership, a rhythm, a presence, a kind of love that doesn't depend on long conversations or grand gestures, just on showing up, day after day, heart open and faithful. In this bond, many older adults find not only comfort, but transformation. They don't just live again, they feel alive again. It's in the little things, the way your dog meets your gaze across the room, the warmth of their body resting close to yours at night, the routine you've built together that turns ordinary days into sacred rituals. This connection changes how you move through the world. You feel steadier, kinder, more connected, to life, to time, to yourself. Science affirms what the heart already knows. Studies from Johns Hopkins University show that the long-term emotional bond between a human and their dog strengthens neural pathways associated with joy, memory, and emotional regulation. In other words, love, real, consistent, uncomplicated love, literally rewires the brain for peace. But even deeper than science is the human truth. Having someone who depends on you, who sees you with constant affection, changes your story. For many seniors, adopting a dog brings back a chapter they thought was closed, the chapter where they mattered deeply to another being. That kind of bond stays, even when the dog slows down with age, even when days grow quiet again. The love remains. There may come a time, of course, when you have to say goodbye. No one can prepare for that moment. But those who have walked that road often speak not of loss alone, but of gratitude, of the warmth that filled the house, of the purpose that returned to their steps, of how they were reminded, daily, patiently, that they were still capable of giving and receiving unconditional love. And for many, the story doesn't end there. Some choose to open their heart again, to another dog who waits quietly behind a shelter door. Others keep the memory alive in routines they maintain, in photos, in quiet walks where they still feel a presence beside them. What the dog gave them, peace, connection, companionship, remains woven into the fabric of their life. To adopt a dog after 60 is not just an act of kindness, it is an act of courage. It is choosing to believe that love can still arrive, that it can still heal, that even in the later chapters, life can surprise you with joy. So if your days feel too quiet, if your heart feels a little forgotten, know this: there is still time. There is still love waiting to find you. And it might just be walking on four paws, with eyes full of hope, looking for someone just like you.